Welcome back to the Global Business Report here on Arise News. The U.S. box office for the past 12 weekends has been through a blockbuster drought, with overall revenues in each weekend of the past 2 months falling below $100 million. It's hoped that that will change this weekend with the latest DC Extended Universe release of Dwayne Johnson's Black Adam from Warner Bros. Pictures and New Line Cinema. There are high hopes for its financial performance, which we're going to get into in a moment. Now, though Black Adam is the main event, there is some counter-programming on offer with the romantic comedy Ticket to Paradise. This film stars George Clooney and Julia Roberts in lead roles, marking their 5th collaboration together. They play a divorced couple that decides to work together and go to Bali to prevent their daughter from marrying a guy she just met. And isn't that every parent's mission? To stop such things. Mayowa Ige, who is a senior associate with Financial Derivatives Company Limited, joins us to discuss further. Mayowa, good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us. So let's get into the box office. What kind of money are we expecting Black Adam to make this weekend?
Hello, Reuters. Well, we're expecting this being forecast. I mean, like you mentioned, there was a 12-week drought. People have been expecting this, and also this particular DC movie is long awaited. You know, one of the most popular anti-heroes. So people are looking forward to this. So with all of this, we've seen forecasts as high as about $60 to $70 million for the opening weekend of this movie. But then we've also started seeing reviews from Rotten Tomatoes, for instance, that puts the movie about 53%. And with this, we've also seen some analysts reviewing their forecast and coming it down to about $60 million for the opening weekend. Regardless of this, we expect that this is going to give the box office its largest or biggest grossing revenue movie in past couple of months. Yeah. The last one they had was in July, Thor's Love and Thunder, I think. So this is undoubtedly most likely going to be the box office biggest grossing movie in recent times.
All right. Now, I'm glad you mentioned Rotten Tomatoes. Are film reviews, do they have an impact with respect to box office performance? The critical reviews, the critics?
Well, to an extent, they actually can have an impact on the financial performance of movies, especially in the early weeks of the movie run, right? Because, for instance, you watch a movie, you see the trailer of a movie, you're excited, you want to know what you actually want to see the movie, but you still need more details. And oftentimes, before these movies are released, people go to these critics to see their own take. They serve as a sort of influencer and predictor to the success of a movie. So to an extent, they play a role, and then you're surprised that they've actually been scientific researches into this, into the impact that they have on the success of movies. And sometimes the results sometimes show that to an extent, there can actually be a positive correlation between the critics and the performance of the movie. But then there are other factors that you need to consider, or other factors, should we say, that play a major role in the overall success of the movie. Some of the things we'll look at is the release. Is it a limited release or a wider release? Sometimes when it's a wider release, that's when you see more of an impact. And then marketing, and then the star power of the movies and of the actors in the movies. For instance, we look at star power. For instance, Black Adam, we have Dwayne Johnson playing a role in it. So there's still that. There's still these factors that play a role in how much of a success the movie is. For instance, we also look at Doctor Strange in Multiverse of Madness. It was 79% of Rotten Tomatoes. You said, oh, great rating. But for the average Marvel comic, it was a low score. Right. But with Disney's marketing push, it's one of the highest grossing movies of this year already. So you still see that there are other factors that play a role in how successful a movie is. Okay, indeed. And of course, Dwayne Johnson is a massive star. What do you think, what are box office performance overseas? I mean, you just talked about the US. What do you think it'll do around the world? Well, analysts are also forecasting revenue of about 65%, $65 million to $75 million from foreign sales, right? And then back to Dwayne Johnson's star power. He actually has a large following in foreign sales, so they are also leveraging on this. The movies are leveraging on this, and analysts are also looking at that particular factor in how much of the foreign sales the movie would actually get.
You know, we've been talking a lot about the dollar and how it's been surging. What kind of impact will a surging dollar have on overseas revenue that you just talked about now for the studios?
Well, it would have an impact, right? And I think that we first need to look at foreign sales as it is, as what contribution does foreign sales give to the overall earnings of a particular movie. We see that foreign sales for movies can be as high as over 60% of the total worldwide earnings. So foreign sales is actually an important factor when it comes to the overall success of a movie, right? And Black Adam is not an exception. So when we look at the stronger dollar, what does a stronger dollar mean? A stronger dollar means that US exports become more expensive for holders of other currency holders, right? And then their imports become cheaper for US companies, US citizens, consumers, and all. And this is a sort of export, right? So it's most likely may impact it by about 15%. We never know. So that's still, but there's also that thing of, the pent-up demand for box office movies in foreign markets. There's still that hope by analysts that, it would help to reduce the impact of the stronger dollar. But then when we look at it, there's still no release date for China yet. And China, last year, China, I think, had about 13% market share of foreign sales of box office movies. And that was because of COVID. On a regular day, they have about as high as 30%. Right, so there's still that Chinese market that is still a bit unaccounted for. So foreign sales, we're not totally sure what would happen, but then analysts are still forecasting, and we assume that they've also taken these factors into consideration.
Gotcha. The movie cost about $195 million to produce. What do you think it has to make to be profitable?
Well, in movie production of the movie in itself is not the only factor to consider. There are other items that play up into the overall cost of a movie, right? And chief of these items is the marketing cost, right? For marketing a movie, it could be as high as start from 30% to as high as 81% of a movie, right? So you need to factor that in to the marketing into the overall cost of a movie, and also when you look at, there's also the split profit between the film studios and also the theaters, the exhibitors. There's also that on a normal day you have there's usually a sharing formula of about 60-40, 60 going to the theaters, the exhibitors in the first week, and about 40 to the film studios. As the weeks run by, the percentage oftentimes will change, reducing the percentage that goes to the theaters and increase to the film producers. But usually it's that opening weekend that plays a major role in how much of revenue that comes in the theaters, right? So those are things we'll consider. So when we look at Black Adam, already we're about $195 million for production costs. If we say, production, when we look at marketing costs, it could be as high as $60 million to $100 million based on that, and that will take the total production cost to about $260 million to about $295 million thereabout on that alone. So to make up for that, the movie would have to be looking as high as $400 to $500 million in order to be considered a success. With that cost of production, we go back to again another movie that was released this year, Doctor Strange. The production cost was about $200 million, which is similar to Black Adam. And it had already grossed over $800 million and is considered a success. So Black Adam needs to be looking to get as high as 500 to that to be considered a financial success movie.
Great stuff. All right, let's move to Ticket to Paradise, George Clooney and Julia Roberts. Counter programming. Can you define what is counter programming?
It's simply a marketing strategy employed by film distributors, even broadcasting stations, where you know that there's a blockbuster opening this weekend and you come up with another movie, most likely even smaller in scale to the blockbuster movie, but targeting a different demographics, right? And because that is not being targeted by the major market, so we can look at it like, for instance, Arsenal is playing sports weekend. Everyone is watching. You want to target non-football lovers. So you have a movie on a Roku TV or something that is anticipated, or a very good movie. So to cater to that audience that is not being targeted by
The blockbuster,
main attraction.
Yeah.
And it's something that we see in the movie industry. In Dark Knight, in July 2008, when Dark Knight was released, Universal Pictures also released their own make of Mamma Mia. It didn't do as well as Dark Knight in that period, but it made a decent $150 million, which was good enough for them, and it actually led to a sequel of that particular movie for them. So it's just a strategy that film distributors use in gaining revenue for themselves.
Great stuff. Well, look, I think I'm going to see both movies this weekend. Mayowa Ige, Senior Associate, Financial Derivatives Company Limited. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate your time.